This is a personal statement, an opinion, commentary. After giving much anguished thought to the state of world affairs and America's role in the planetary saga, I have written an essay. Now I am offering this as a clarion wake-up call to like-minded people whose concerns for planetary peace and justice are as deep and abiding as my own. Lately, I have been giving a lot of thought to the ongoing catastrophes of our protracted wars of empiric conquest in Iraq and Afghanistan. Especially unnerving are the recurring rumblings of our continual belligerent attitude toward Iran. Equally shocking is our inhumane refusal to allow food and medical aid to come to the assistance of North Korea, whose starving, blighted, and impoverished citizenry is teetering on the brink of a colossal humanitarian disaster. Now, here's a question I have. How did those of us lucky enough to be born into the land of the free finally arrive at such a state of affairs that we are known around the world as vain, egotistical, rapacious, greedy, inconsiderate, self-serving, oppressive land grabbers? Now, do we deserve such a reputation? Let's cast a backward glance at the historical paths we have taken as a people. You see, we Americans, like most peoples of the world, are deeply rooted in our hallowed traditions of national pride, patriotism, and a worldview that is colored by an unparalleled notion of self-righteousness. We have a long tradition lying at the foundation of our maturing empire that is based on the acquisition of land and resources by brute force. We began to hone our skills in these practices very early in our history, using them with brutal efficiency upon the native peoples of this land, who we oppressed and eradicated with a vengeance. We still do not accord these conquered peoples full rights, respect, or dignity. What a shame. Well, time doesn't change too much. Unfortunately, we haven't changed all that much, carefully cocooned as we are in our comfy Republican dream where nothing is ever wrong. That dream now cleverly appropriated and veiled by the false promises of the democratic machine, exhorting us that the dream is about to get a lot better, folks. We, the high moral road Americans, are still the basic good old folks we have always been. Yes, we have remained perennially steadfast in our utter failure to pay close enough attention to the real world beyond our closely clipped lawns, our neatly segregated schools and churches, and our racially pure shopping malls, to notice some of the other aspects of the consequences of our lives. For instance, the rampant colonialism in Central and South America, replete with American-trained, financed, and equipped brutal dictatorships, the CIA-backed coups d'etats of world leaders who stood in the way of the expansionist American empire in Iran, Southeast Asia, Chile, the Philippines, etc. The House Un-American Activities Committee and its blatant persecution of dissenting Americans of largely Jewish descent. The ongoing lynchings in the South of blacks who resisted the dying programs of Jim Crow, while American presidents as famously liberal as John F. Kennedy failed to intervene on behalf of the downtrodden descendants of slaves until forced to do so by massive social pressure. And we, most of us, had no idea. The list of these atrocities executed in our name goes on and on. We, the people, seem to be unable to awaken ourselves sufficiently to curb the murderous tendencies of our government that has never truly served our best interests unless forced to do so by a massive social protest. So much for democracy. Yet the overall guarantee of the great American dream sounds like a very wonderful inheritance to claim for oneself, especially if one happens to be fortunate enough to be white, Protestant, and male. We were all conveniently lulled into abject ignorance and apathy by wage slavery and the generous rewards of a consumer society that provided all the creature comforts one could imagine, as long as one pretended not to know what was being done in one's name under the banner of freedom. The burgeoning American middle class of the post-World War II economic boom created a citizenry benumbed, stupefied, self-indulgent, apathetic, and largely uninformed about world affairs. Our collective socio-historical intelligence has continually degenerated since those halcyon days. Unfortunate, but true. Through the use of propaganda, government lies, double-speak, misinformation, censorship, and universal news management, it was a simple trick to ensure collective institutional denial. How easy it was to convince such a self-satisfied throng to collectively believe that their nation was pursuing profit with honor, issuing from the canard of peace with honor. Under the rising powers of multinational corporations, that nation was promoting, funding, and enforcing with unfettered military might the rotting stench of profit through horror. Thank all the gods and goddesses that we were able to awaken ourselves from that tawdry dream. During the 60s and 70s, we were willing to take a brief look at the underside of our national hubris and denial. Perhaps for the first time as a nation, we began to see that the flip side of our dream was an unending nightmare of bloody horrors for much of the rest of the world, which just happened to be situated in lands rich with the resources we so greedily coveted. However, we are woefully forgetful. In our shocking fear, we have once again permitted our leaders to perpetrate yet another round of war crimes in our name. We are now ready for a new awakening to rid ourselves of the sleep of reason, ushered in by George Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and their eager cadre of neoconservative jackals. Their imperialistic dream for the future domination of the world is now being reinforced by the neoliberal administration of Barack Obama. Different package, uplifting slogans, same poison. With no fewer than 750 military bases and installations on every continent on the planet, we are privileged to sleep peacefully in our cozy beds on leafy, tree-lined lanes here at home, just like we did in the good old days of the 1950s. Today, we stubbornly, blindly uphold those national policies, priorities, and prerogatives, ensuring that there are still millions of innocent people whose lives are being shredded under the banner of the red, white, and blue. What an eternal shame that we fail to see how often in the past and the present Old Glory has degenerated into a dark shroud, more aptly named Old Gory. At the core of all nostalgic myths of utopian perfection is the fact that there never were any good old days to cherish and remember fondly. Just days gone by, when we lucky few, by luck, folly, or fate, managed to avoid the evil days perpetrated in our name under the aegis of a promise of freedom that only we few temporarily enjoyed. Remaining blind to this sad fact of history will ultimately make us very small indeed. Father, you see, did not know best. Father was a liar.